In the vast expanse of Asia, two ancient civilizations stand tall, their economies pulsating with dynamism. China and India, home to over a third of humanity, are economic behemoths, captivating the world's attention. For centuries, these nations were powerhouses, their influence felt across continents. The Silk routes hummed with traders, fueling prosperity and exchange. However, colonialism cast a long shadow, leaving both nations grappling with poverty. As the 20th century closed, a new chapter began. The world watched as China and India transformed. From Guangzhou's factories to Bangalore's tech hubs, a new era of dominance dawned. Emerging superpowers reshaping the global order. The 21st century's narrative written by China and India. Their paths distinct, ambitions shared, reclaiming their place on the world stage, lifting millions from poverty and scripting a future as global architects. This is their economic ascent, a tale of ambition and prosperity. Two nations, once bound by colonial chains, now shaping their destinies, redefining the balance of power in the 21st century. The year 1990 marked a pivotal juncture for both China and India. Emerging from a period of economic isolation, both nations found themselves at a crossroads. Their GDPs strikingly similar, their potential immense, yet their paths ahead shrouded in uncertainty. In this era of globalization, they faced a critical choice: to cling to the vestiges of their socialist past, or to embrace the winds of market-driven reforms sweeping the globe. China, under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, had already embarked on its journey of economic liberalization in the late 1970s. The stage was set for an unprecedented economic transformation, one that would catapult China to the forefront of the global economy. India, on the other hand, was grappling with its own set of challenges. The legacy of the license Raj, a complex web of bureaucratic regulations, stifled entrepreneurship and hindered economic growth. However, the winds of change were beginning to stir in India as well. Despite their parallel beginnings, the paths of China and India began to diverge in the 1990s. China's embrace of market-oriented reforms, coupled with its aggressive export-led growth strategy, yielded astounding results. Its economy surged ahead, transforming the nation into the world's factory. India, while initiating its own economic reforms, proceeded at a more cautious pace. Bogged down by bureaucratic inertia and political complexities, its economic transformation, though significant, did not match the sheer scale and speed of China's rise. The 1990s emerged as a pivotal decade, a period of profound economic transformation for both nations. China's focus on manufacturing and exports ignited unprecedented growth. Factories mushroomed, drawing millions to manufacturing hubs. The world marveled at the Made in China phenomenon. India's gradual shift towards a market economy began. The dismantling of the license Raj unleashed entrepreneurial energies. Information technology emerged as a key growth driver. However, infrastructure bottlenecks and social inequalities posed challenges. Both nations experienced significant economic gains. Millions were lifted from poverty, and a burgeoning middle class emerged. Yet the gap between the two Asian giants began to widen. China's relentless pursuit of growth propelled it ahead. India's focus on inclusive growth resulted in a slower trajectory. The 1990s set the stage for future economic rivalry. In the 1990s, China embarked on economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping, transforming into a global powerhouse. Deng's leadership ignited an entrepreneurial spirit, attracting foreign investment and expertise. Factories sprang up, transforming villages into manufacturing hubs. China's GDP soared, averaging double-digit growth for decades. Made in China became ubiquitous, lifting millions out of poverty. China's economic surge fueled its geopolitical ambitions, transforming it into a global force. Special economic zones, or SEs, were key to China's economic success. Strategically located along the coastline, they served as engines of export-led growth. Foreign investors received incentives like tax breaks and streamlined regulations. SEZs attracted multinational corporations and technology. Shenzhen transformed from a fishing village to a metropolis. The success of SEZs led to more zones across China. They became models for economic reform and global integration. China's economic miracle was not solely a product of market liberalization and foreign investment. It was underpinned by massive infrastructure investment. The Chinese government strategically laid the groundwork for long-term growth. Efficient transportation, logistics, and energy networks were essential. New highways and high-speed rail lines transformed the landscape. Ports and airports were modernized, making China a global hub. Infrastructure investments created jobs and boosted growth. The Belt and Road Initiative reshaped global trade routes. As China's economy matured, it shifted its global strategy. China moved from being the factory of the world to a leader in innovation and technology. Emphasizing domestic consumption, it reduced reliance on exports. Companies invested in R&D, developing their own brands and IP. Giants like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei emerged, competing globally in e-commerce, social media, and 5G. China's tech prowess shapes the global economy. This shift has profound global implications. The sleeping giant awakens India's gradual rise. While China surged ahead, India's journey was more gradual. The dismantling of the license Raj in the early 1990s unleashed entrepreneurial energies. This liberalization paved the way for sustained economic growth. The IT sector propelled India onto the global stage. Indian engineers became highly sought-after assets. Companies like Infosys and Wipro showcased India's IT prowess. The IT sector created a new generation of skilled professionals. However, India's transformation faced challenges. Colonial legacy and bureaucratic hurdles cast a long shadow. Infrastructure bottlenecks hampered economic efficiency. Despite obstacles, India's economy continued to grow. The world watched with cautious optimism. Roadblocks on the path to progress, bureaucracy, and infrastructure. Despite its economic strides, India continued to grapple with significant roadblocks that hindered its ability to fully unleash its economic potential. The infamous Indian bureaucracy, often cited as a symbol of inefficiency and corruption, remained a major obstacle to business and investment. Navigating the labyrinthine corridors of government offices, obtaining permits and licenses, and complying with a myriad of regulations often proved to be a Herculean task, discouraging both domestic and foreign investors. Adding to these challenges was India's inadequate infrastructure. The country's roads, railways, ports and airports struggled to keep pace with the demands of a rapidly growing economy. Power outages were frequent, and access to reliable electricity remained a distant dream for many. These infrastructure bottlenecks not only increased transportation costs and reduced productivity, but also discouraged investment in manufacturing and other sectors that relied on efficient logistics and reliable energy supply. While the government recognized the need for infrastructure development and implemented various initiatives to address these challenges, progress was often slow and hampered by bureaucratic delays and corruption. The lack of adequate infrastructure not only acted as a drag on economic growth, but also exacerbated regional disparities, with some states forging ahead while others lagged behind. Addressing these structural impediments became crucial for India to unlock its true economic potential and achieve inclusive and sustainable growth. The paradox of democracy, a blessing and a curse. India's vibrant democracy, often hailed as a beacon of hope in a region marked by authoritarianism, presented both opportunities and challenges for its economic development. On the one hand, democracy fostered a culture of debate and dissent, allowing for a diversity of viewpoints and encouraging citizen participation in the political process. This inclusivity, while messy and at times chaotic, ensured that the concerns of different segments of society were heard, fostering a sense of ownership and legitimacy in government policies. However, this very same democratic framework, with its emphasis on consensus building and accommodating diverse interests, often led to policy paralysis and a slow pace of reform. Unlike China's top-down approach, where decisions could be implemented swiftly and decisively, India's democratic system required navigating a complex web of political parties, interest groups, and bureaucratic hurdles. This often resulted in delays, compromises, and watered-down reforms, hindering the government's ability to implement bold and transformative economic policies. Moreover, the need to appease various constituencies, particularly in the run-up to elections, often led to populist measures that prioritized short-term gains over long-term economic sustainability. Subsidies, loan waivers, and other populist schemes, while politically expedient, often strained government finances and diverted resources from crucial investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. This paradox of democracy, where the very institutions designed to empower citizens could also hinder economic progress, became a defining feature of India's developmental journey. Section 4. Uneven development. Bridging the gap between rich and poor. Despite economic growth, India grappled with stark inequalities. A burgeoning middle class thrived, while many remained in poverty, lacking basic necessities. Social tensions from this uneven development threatened India's progress. Marginalized communities faced systemic discrimination, limiting their opportunities. Bridging this gap became a moral and economic necessity. The government implemented programs for poverty alleviation and social upliftment. However, corruption and inefficiency plagued these initiatives. Addressing root causes like discrimination and lack of education became crucial. India needed to create a more just and equitable society. Section 1. The Great Divergence. China races ahead. China's economy surged, leaving India trailing. China's GDP skyrocketed from $364 billion in 1990 to $2.2 trillion by 2005. India's GDP, though growing, reached only $830 billion by 2005. This divergence had profound global implications. China's aggressive globalization and manufacturing focus paid off. India struggled with bureaucratic inertia and infrastructure issues. The world watched to see if India could close the gap. China's economic dominance seemed likely to define the century. India's cautious approach hindered its potential. Section 2. A tale of two growth stories: manufacturing versus services. China's growth was driven by manufacturing. Made in China became a global symbol. India focused on its services sector, especially IT. Indian IT giants like Infosys and TCS thrived. Services created high-value jobs but had limitations. India's manufacturing sector remained underdeveloped. This limited India's export potential and employment. Manufacturing could absorb unskilled labor, unlike services. India's unemployment problem persisted. China's infrastructure boom transformed its landscape. Highways and high-speed rail connected the nation. India struggled with congested roads and overburdened railways. Power outages and inadequate infrastructure hindered growth. This increased costs and reduced productivity. Regional disparities widened as some states lagged. India's ability to attract investment suffered. Infrastructure improvements were crucial for growth. India needed to address these deficits to compete. Unlocking potential required significant investments. China and India faced demographic challenges. China's aging population strained its social security. Policies aimed at boosting productivity and innovation. India had a youthful population with potential. Creating jobs for the young workforce was essential. Education and skills training were critical. Failure to harness this potential could lead to unrest. India's demographic dividend was a double-edged sword. Addressing poverty and inequality was vital. The future depended on effective policies. China and India's future trajectories are debated. Will China surpass the US as the largest economy? Can India overcome challenges and reach its potential? China must transition to a sustainable growth model. Innovation and domestic consumption are key. India must address poverty, inequality, and infrastructure. Job creation and education are crucial. Both nations face challenges and opportunities. The world watches their next moves. China faces the middle-income trap. Rising wages and costs threaten competitiveness. Moving up the value chain is essential. Investments in education and R&D are needed. Environmental challenges must be addressed. Ambitious plans require overcoming vested interests. Geopolitical ambitions add complexity. Balancing security and cooperation is crucial. Failure could lead to conflict and stagnation. China's future hinges on strategic decisions. India's young population is a key asset. Over half the population is under 25. Job creation and skills training are essential. Infrastructure improvements are needed. Investments in transportation and energy are crucial. Social inequalities must be addressed. Empowering marginalized communities is vital. Education and healthcare access are priorities. Failure could lead to unrest and missed opportunities. India's future depends on effective policies. China and India's rise reshapes the global order. Multipolarity creates opportunities and challenges. New markets and innovation emerge. Competition for resources and influence intensifies. China and India's relationship is pivotal. Cooperation and rivalry will coexist. Trade, investment, and climate change are areas of cooperation. Strategic competition will also occur. Managing this balance is crucial for global stability. The stakes are high for a prosperous world. BRICS represents a shift in global power. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa form the Bloc. They seek a more equitable world order. BRICS nations have significant economic weight. China leads in purchasing power parity. India follows with a booming services sector. Brazil, Russia, and South Africa add to the Bloc's strength. Collective action amplifies their influence. The new development bank challenges Western dominance. BRICS advocates for an inclusive global order. BRICS rises amid Western protectionism. The US adopts an America-first approach. BRICS fills the global leadership vacuum. They commit to free trade and multilateralism. Forums like the WTO are used to push back. Economic ties within BRICS deepen. They forge new trade agreements. A united front shapes global rules. An open, inclusive system benefits all. Success will impact globalization and power distribution. The interwoven narratives of China and India are not just tales of economic transformation. They are harbingers of a new era in global affairs. The 21st century, often dubbed the Asian century, is witnessing a profound shift in the balance of power, with the center of gravity tilting decisively eastward. As China and India ascend to their rightful places on the world stage, they are not merely reshaping the global economic order. They are rewriting the rules of the game. This new world order is one defined not by a single hegemon, but by a constellation of great powers, each with its own interests, strengths, and vulnerabilities. China, with its economic might and growing military prowess, is poised to play a leading role in shaping the future of Asia and beyond. India, armed with its youthful demographic, its thriving technology sector, and its commitment to democratic values, is well positioned to emerge as a counterweight to China's growing influence. The relationship between these two Asian giants will be crucial in determining the contours of this new world order. Will they embrace cooperation, working together to address common challenges such as climate change, pandemics, and global poverty? Or will their historical rivalry resurface, leading to a destabilizing arms race, economic competition, and geopolitical tensions? The world watches with bated breath, for the choices these two nations make will have profound implications for us all. The rise of China and India presents both challenges and opportunities for the rest of the world. On the one hand, their economic growth has lifted millions out of poverty, created new markets for goods and services, and spurred innovation in a wide range of fields. Their participation in global institutions has led to a more inclusive and representative international system, one that better reflects the diversity of the 21st century world. On the other hand, their growing assertiveness on the world stage has also raised concerns about their commitment to a rules-based international order. China's territorial disputes in the South China Sea, its crackdown on dissent in Hong Kong, and its human rights record have drawn criticism from Western nations. India's own struggles with poverty, inequality, and religious tensions have also raised questions about its ability to play a leadership role on the global stage. Despite these challenges, the rise of China and India represents a historic opportunity for a more equitable and multipolar world. By embracing dialogue, cooperation, and a shared commitment to global governance, these two Asian giants can help to create a more prosperous, peaceful, and sustainable future for all. The world is watching, eager to see if they will rise to the challenge and fulfill their promise as architects of a new and better world order.